mirror moment. It usually happens quietly. You're not expecting it. You're just brushing your teeth, maybe tying your hair back, when you glance at the mirror. And for a second, you wonder, who is that? Not because you don't recognize the face, but because something feels unfamiliar. There's a softness around the eyes that didn't used to be there, a quietness in your posture, a little less urgency in the shoulders, a wrinkle you don't remember arriving, and not just on your face, but in your days, your memories, your relationships. Everything has shifted a little all at once. You stare a little longer, not out of vanity, but something more vulnerable. When did I become older? How did time move this fast? That question doesn't hurt like a wound. It hurts like a slow unraveling, a quiet ache you can't quite describe. Not loud enough to scream, but always present, like a hum in the background of your life. When life no longer moves around you. Maybe you've noticed it more in recent years. The world is moving on, faster, louder, colder. It feels like it's racing ahead, but not for you. People who once filled your days now seem distant. Children grow up, jobs end, friendships fade. The people who once needed you don't anymore. Not like they used to. And it's not just loneliness. It's the strange, aching stillness that settles in when you're no longer the center of someone else's life. That quiet realization, I'm not really needed the way I once was. You might still be surrounded by people. You might still work, still help, still function, but something's missing. Something that used to feel solid. Your sense of place, your role, your importance has thinned out like fog, and no one talks about it. Not really, because to admit that aging hurts in places we can't name, that takes a kind of bravery most people avoid. The myth of staying young. The modern world worships youth like a god. It tells you to stay young, look young, think young, as if age were a disease, as if growing older is something you should apologize for. Buy the cream, take the supplement, get the surgery, wear the clothes, be ageless. But Buddhism teaches the opposite. It whispers what the modern world is too afraid to say. Aging is not a mistake, it is a spiritual event. Buddhism and the beauty of aging. Buddhist monks don't dye their hair, they don't hide their wrinkles, they don't fear gray or lean or slow. In fact, in many Buddhist traditions, aging is considered a sacred passage, a time of awakening, insight, and deep inner peace. Why? Because the illusions of life start to fall away with time. You're no longer obsessed with impressing people. You care less about appearances. You realize most of your suffering came from chasing things that never brought lasting joy anyway. And suddenly, there's this space, a stillness, that begins to open. And if you're willing to sit with it, you begin to see, not with the eyes of youth, but with the quiet vision of wisdom. You're not behind, you're arriving. Let me tell you something you don't hear enough. You are not falling behind in life. You are arriving exactly where you're meant to be. I know that sounds strange, maybe even unbelievable, because everywhere you look, people are chasing goals, timelines, younger bodies, new beginnings. It's easy to feel like you're being left behind, like life is happening without you. But that's not the truth, that's just the noise. Buddhism teaches that nothing real can ever be lost. Only illusions fall away, and what remains, what is real, is your awareness, your presence, your inner peace. And those things, they get stronger with age, not weaker. The quiet wisdom that comes with time. There's a strange freedom that comes with getting older. You stop pretending to be someone you're not. You stop saying yes just to please people. You stop rushing to prove yourself. You start noticing little things again. The way tea tastes on a quiet morning, the way the light hits the wall around sunset, the sound of birds when no one's speaking. And you realize, maybe for the first time, that you've been missing this all along. Because youth is loud, youth is busy, youth is distracted, but age is awake. But what about the pain? Still, let's not romanticize it. Getting older comes with grief. There's no denying it. You grieve your energy, your flexibility, your reflection. You grieve relationships that changed or disappeared. You grieve the dreams that never came true. You grieve a past version of you that was so full of hope, and sometimes that grief shows up as anger or sadness or just silence. Sometimes you don't even realize what you're grieving until you're lying in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering why your chest feels so heavy. Let me say this clearly. That grief is sacred. It means you lived. It means you loved. It means you cared. And it means you are still alive, still here, still feeling. Why Buddhist truths matter now more than ever. So why Buddhism? Why now? Because when you strip away all the noise, status, success, speed, what you're left with is your mind. And Buddhist wisdom is all about the mind. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about removing what's false. It's not about escaping old age. It's about meeting it with open eyes. Buddhism doesn't try to fix aging. It honors it. It welcomes it. Because aging is reality. And when you stop fighting reality, peace finally begins. Let's be honest about where you are. If you're reading this, there's a good chance something in you is quietly aching. Maybe it's the loneliness. Maybe it's the confusion. Maybe it's the fear that the best parts of your life are behind you. And you know what? It's okay to feel all of that. It's okay to cry about it. It's okay to wonder what comes next. Because here's the truth. You're not lost. You're not too late. And you are not alone. A new beginning that looks nothing like the past. This isn't about going back to who you used to be. It's about meeting who you are now, with love, with grace, with wisdom. It's about realizing that growing older doesn't mean becoming less. It means becoming more of your true self. The world might not celebrate that, but your spirit does. And that's what matters now. What you'll learn in these 5 truths. In the chapters ahead, we'll explore 5 powerful Buddhist truths, each one offering a lens through which you can see aging not as a tragedy, but as a spiritual transformation. These truths won't erase your pain, but they will help you understand it. They won't make you young again, but they'll help you see why you don't need to be. And slowly, gently, they will invite you into something deeper than youth, peace. Ready? If you're willing to walk slowly, to breathe deeply, and to let go of what no longer serves you, these 5 Buddhist truths just might change everything. Let's begin. Truth 1. Nothing is meant to stay the same. The pain of losing what once felt permanent. It doesn't happen in a single moment. You don't just wake up one morning and feel like life has moved on. It seeps in slowly like dusk after a long afternoon. First, your phone rings less. Then the conversations get shorter, plans get canceled or not made at all. Birthdays you never used to forget now pass by without a single call. And slowly, so very slowly, the people who once revolved around you drift. It could be your grown-up children building their own lives, your old friends retiring in different cities, or maybe it's just the silence, the kind that wraps around your routine like an old coat you didn't ask to wear. The truth? You miss being needed. You miss the noise, the laughter, the tiny disasters of everyday life that made you feel important, alive. And what hurts most is that no one told you this was coming. That love could change form, that relationships could go quiet, that connection wasn't something you could hold on to, that people, no matter how close, would one day go. Change isn't personal, it's universal. Here's the thing, when people grow distant, we make it personal. Did I do something wrong? Am I no longer important? Why don't they check in like they used to? But Buddhism offers something gentler, something that doesn't blame you and doesn't shame them either. It simply says, all things change. Nothing is meant to stay the same. Not even love, not even closeness, not even forever. The Buddha called this Anicca, impermanence. It's not a flaw in life. It's the nature of it. Like the clouds, like the seasons, like breath. We don't grieve spring when it turns into summer. We don't accuse the wind of betrayal when it changes direction. But with people, we expect permanence. We cling to it. And it hurts us deeply when it shifts. The story of an old gardener. There's a story of an old gardener who tended his backyard with the same love and routine for decades. Every morning he'd walk the rows of vegetables, check the tomato vines, greet the birds, brush his fingers gently across the herbs. Everything was in its place, but over the years his hands grew slower, his knees ached more, his eyesight dimmed. He started to forget which seeds were planted where. One day, a friend came to visit and found him sitting in the garden, not tending to it, just watching it. "You haven't pulled the weeds," the friend said. The old gardener smiled softly. "I've stopped trying to keep everything the same," he said. "I'm just learning to love how things grow, even when I'm no longer the one shaping them." The illusion of control. When we're young, we believe we can hold life still. We schedule it, shape it, build routines, make plans. We fall in love and think it will always feel the same. We raise children and believe they'll always need us. We work hard and think our roles will define us forever. But time moves, and eventually, even the best-built routines fall apart. The roles we played so well begin to fade. Our sense of control? Gone. It's not cruel, it's natural. Buddhism teaches that suffering comes not from change, but from our refusal to accept it. You're not suffering because people changed. You're suffering because you thought they wouldn't. How we fight change. Without realizing it, and we do fight it, don't we? Not always loudly, but in subtle ways. We replay the past like a favorite movie. We compare today to how things used to be. We get stuck in stories they should have called. We resist the moment by longing for what's already gone. This resistance, this subtle tightening of the heart, is what creates pain. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The harder you squeeze, the faster it slips through. The gentle art of letting go. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you erase the past or pretend it didn't matter. It simply means you stop demanding that the past should still be the present. You allow people to change. You allow yourself to change. You let life unfold without gripping it so tightly. This doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow softening, a daily practice, like exhaling, like loosening your grip, and over time, it becomes peace. When your role fades, your spirit emerges. One of the hardest things about aging is the erosion of identity. You were the mother, the father, the provider, the fixer, the comforter, the reliable one, the smart one, the funny one. And suddenly, those roles don't apply the way they used to. So who are you now? It's a frightening question, but it's also a spiritual one. Because Buddhism doesn't define you by your roles. It doesn't even define you by your name. It invites you to see deeper, beneath the roles, beneath the labels, into what remains when everything else fades. Pure awareness, calm presence, unshakable peace. That's who you are. A thought experiment. The river. Imagine standing by a river. You watch it flow, constantly changing. New water every second, never the same. Now imagine someone saying, "I miss how the river looked last Tuesday at 4:36 p.m. That was the best version of the river." Sounds silly, right? But that's exactly what we do with life. We freeze one perfect moment in our mind and measure everything else against it. We mourn the way things were instead of opening ourselves to the sacredness of what is. But the river doesn't apologize for changing. It just flows. And there's beauty in every version of it. Let the leaves fall in Japan. The falling of autumn leaves is not seen as sad. It's celebrated. People take long walks under crimson trees. They gather to watch the leaves drift down. They speak softly. They drink warm tea. They call it momijigari, the art of admiring things that are fading. No one tries to glue the leaves back. No one cries for the green that used to be. They just witness it with reverence. That's the Buddhist view of aging. You don't resist the fall, you honor it. You don't mourn the color changing, you find poetry in it. So what do you do when everything changes? You stop expecting things to stay the same. You stop seeing change as a betrayal, and instead, you start asking different questions. What is this moment asking me to let go of? What is life trying to teach me through this change? What space is opening in my heart that wasn't there before? And slowly you realize, change isn't taking something away from you, it's making room for something deeper. Maybe you're not being left behind. Maybe you're being set free. Here's a thought. What if you're not being left behind? What if you're just no longer entangled in things that once distracted you from yourself? What if aging is life's way of returning you to stillness, to self, to spirit? People may move on, roles may fade, bodies may weaken, but your awareness, the you beneath all of it, remains, and it is more powerful now than ever before. A simple practice, sitting with impermanence. Find a quiet spot, sit still, breathe gently. Now think of something in your life that has recently changed, something you're grieving. Don't fight it, don't try to fix it, just notice. Notice the ache, notice the story you've been telling yourself about it. Notice how it feels in your body. Then ask yourself softly, what if this is okay? Not perfect, not painless, just okay. And if even one part of you can accept that, you've just tasted freedom. Truth 2. Suffering comes from clinging to what was, the ghost of who you used to be. There's a strange ache that settles in your chest when you think about who you used to be. Maybe you were the backbone of your family, the one who kept everything running, who never missed a birthday, who always knew what to say. Maybe you had a career you poured your soul into, a routine that gave you purpose, or a body that moved with strength and ease. Now, you wake up and feel a little less seen, a little less necessary, a little more invisible, and no one talks about it. Not really, not out loud, but it hurts. Not because you're weak, but because something precious is gone. Not just time, identity, not just years, meaning. You miss the version of you who mattered. And here's the truth Buddhism gently offers you. The suffering isn't just from the loss itself. It's from your resistance to letting that version go. Attachment, the root of quiet pain. In Buddhist thought, suffering is not caused by pain directly. It's caused by attachment. You become attached to people, places, routines, emotions, even your own self-image. You become attached to the feeling of being useful, of being admired, of being strong. You become attached to being you as you were. But life doesn't work that way. Everything you love will change. Everything you build will shift. Everything you are will evolve. And when you grip it too tightly, when you refuse to allow that evolution, suffering begins. The woman who refused to stop being everything. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman who had spent 30 years raising her children, caring for her husband, organizing family dinners, remembering anniversaries, being everyone's go-to, always knowing what needed to be done before anyone had to ask. She was the glue, the heart, the map everyone followed. Then one day, they all grew up. Her husband passed. Her phone rang less. Her home became quiet. And the most devastating part? No one needed her anymore. She wasn't just grieving her family's distance. She was grieving herself. The her that was woven into everyone else's life. So she kept doing what she always did, sending texts, offering help, planning birthdays even when no one asked. But it hurt, because she was trying to keep something alive that had already transformed. And what she didn't know was this. She wasn't failing. She was just clinging. And in that clinging, she was slowly dissolving. The illusion of a fixed self. We're told to find ourselves when we're young, to become somebody, to build a life. But Buddhism doesn't believe in a fixed self. It teaches that the self is fluid, changing, a collection of experiences, memories, stories. The person you were at 30, gone. The person you were at 45, also gone. You've died and been reborn 1,000 times already. You just didn't notice. The problem is, we keep trying to revive old versions of ourselves. We treat identity like a photograph, sharp, frozen, perfect. But in truth, you are not a photograph. You are a river, always flowing, always becoming. What happens when you let go of who you were? It's terrifying at first. You might feel hollow, lost, directionless. But something else happens too. You stop fighting reality. You stop waking up with resistance in your chest. You stop measuring yourself against an outdated script. You stop asking life to rewind. And in that empty space, once filled with comparison and longing, peace begins to bloom. Not the kind of peace that sparkles, but the kind that settles like dust after a long storm. Letting go is not giving up. Let's be clear, letting go of the past doesn't mean forgetting it. It doesn't mean abandoning the person you were or erasing your memories. It simply means releasing the need for things to still be that way. You can hold the past gently like an old photograph in your hands. Look at it, smile, even cry a little. But when you're done, you place it back in the drawer. You don't try to step into it. That's the difference. An unexpected gift, space. When you stop clinging to your past identity, something unexpected appears. Space. Space to breathe. Space to listen. Space to meet the you who lives beneath all those roles. Because underneath the mom, the provider, the helper, the achiever, there's still a presence, stillness, awareness. And that part of you, it doesn't age, it doesn't fade. It has no title, no role, no expiration date. It's just you, quiet, watching, alive. The bamboo in the storm. There's a Buddhist teaching that compares the wise person to bamboo. When the storm comes, the stiff tree snaps. But bamboo, it bends. It doesn't fight the wind. It flows with it. When life changes, when your body weakens, when people leave, when your identity fades, you can either resist or bend. And bending isn't weakness, it's wisdom. But what if you feel useless now? That question sits like a stone in the heart. If I'm not who I used to be, what value do I have now? The answer, your value never came from your doing. It came from your being, your quiet presence, your experience, your stillness, your capacity to witness, to listen, to understand life on a level the young cannot. In Buddhist temples, the elders are not cast aside. They are venerated because they have walked through fire and now they carry water. A gentle practice, releasing the old you. Sit quietly, close your eyes. Picture the version of you you've been holding on to. Maybe it's a strong body. Maybe it's a title. Maybe it's a season of life when everything felt full and vibrant. Hold that image in your mind for a moment. Now imagine yourself walking up to it, placing your hand over your heart and whispering, "Thank you, you served me well. You can rest now." And then, with a deep breath, let it go. Just for today. Grief is the path, not the obstacle. Yes, you'll grieve, again and again, and that's not something to avoid. That's part of the journey. Buddhism teaches that grief isn't a detour on the path. It is the path. Through grief, your heart becomes tender. Through grief, your ego softens. Through grief, you discover what really matters. It breaks you open, yes, but sometimes what breaks you open is what sets you free. Aging isn't losing yourself. It's meeting yourself for the first time. What if aging wasn't about decline? What if it was about arrival? What if everything falling away, your roles, your responsibilities, your image, wasn't erosion, but excavation? like slowly brushing dust off an ancient sculpture buried beneath layers, and finally, seeing your own soul in the light. No mask, no pressure, just presence, just peace. Closing reflection. Sit with the truth, not the story. The story in your mind might say, I'm no longer useful. I've been left behind. My best years are over. But those are just stories. They change with every emotion, every memory, every mood. The truth? You're still here. You still breathe. You still matter. And if you sit with that truth, without judgment, without resistance, something beautiful begins to rise. A self that isn't clinging, a life that isn't haunted, a peace that isn't conditional. You're not who you used to be. You're something wiser now, and maybe, just maybe, that's a gift. Let's stay in that stillness for a moment, not just physically, but emotionally. The stillness that comes when you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. The kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, but full of memory, full of insight, full of breath. You see, one of the subtle graces of getting older is this: the mirror gets quieter. When you're young, that mirror, whether literal or metaphorical, is noisy. It screams with expectations. You measure your worth by how much money you're making, how attractive you look, how many people notice you, how fast your life is moving. It's exhausting, right? But when you grow older, and especially if you allow Buddhist thought to enter your heart, you stop checking that mirror for external validation. You start using it differently. It becomes a quiet reflection space, a soft lens for seeing what truly matters. This is not an escape from life. It's a re-entry. And here's the twist. The older you get, the more life begins to flow through you, not just around you. You're no longer clinging to every moment, but letting moments pass through like wind through an open window. You no longer grasp tightly at identity, but allow it to shift, like seasons, like tides, like breath. Truth number 3. You are not who you used to be, and that's not a problem. This one's hard for many, because change, especially in appearance, ability, or pace, feels like loss. You bend down to pick something up, and your knees remind you they exist. You can't recall names as fast as before. You sometimes wonder, is this what fading feels like? But Buddhist wisdom says something beautiful here. The self is never static. It is never meant to be. You're not the same person you were 5 years ago, or even 5 minutes ago, and that's not decay. That's evolution. The Buddha often taught about the concept of anatta, no fixed self. We are a stream of experiences, thoughts, emotions, and sensations, always changing, like a river that never steps into the same water twice. So aging isn't a punishment. It's simply the river flowing onward. Instead of asking, why am I not the person I used to be? Ask, who am I becoming now? You may not run marathons anymore, but you have a different kind of endurance now, a kind that can hold grief without crumbling, a kind that can listen without interrupting, a kind that sees the deeper layers in people's eyes. That's not less of you, that's more. And here's the poetic irony. The less tightly you try to hold on to who you were, the more gracefully you become who you truly are. The discomfort is a gate. Let's not sugarcoat it. There's discomfort in change. Yes, even spiritual change, even peaceful change. Buddhist truth doesn't ask us to pretend the aches aren't real, but it does invite us to stop resisting them. Because, stay with me here, every discomfort is a gate, and behind that gate is transformation. When your roles change, parent to grandparent, leader to mentor, worker to observer, it can feel like you've lost your purpose. But look again, the gate has opened. You now have the freedom to shift from doing to being, from striving to guiding, from racing to simply walking with presence. And walking with presence, that's a form of sacred living. The social disappearance myth. Let's pause and talk about something more subtle, something unspoken. Many people over 60 feel an invisible shift, not just in their bodies, but in how others see them, or rather don't see them. It's the slow social disappearance. You're no longer the one invited to the high-powered meetings. People may interrupt you more. You might feel overlooked in conversations. Even your opinions, rich with life wisdom, might get brushed aside. It hurts. And yet, Buddhism reminds us there is a deeper power in invisibility, because when the spotlight leaves, you can finally rest. You can finally see without needing to be seen. You can become the observer of the world, no longer trapped by its chaotic stage. You become the mountain, not the weather. This invisibility is not a curse. It's a kind of cloaked liberation. You no longer live for applause. You live for awareness. You no longer chase validation. You seek truth. And once you taste that freedom, you'll wonder why you didn't welcome it sooner. Your breath has been waiting for you. Here's something strange but true. Many people don't meet their breath until their 60s or 70s. We go decades breathing unconsciously, rushed, shallow, distracted. But Buddhist teachings offer breath as the gateway to reality. When you get older and life slows down, you finally have the chance to notice your breath, not just as oxygen, but as presence, as peace, as the moment unfolding. Each inhale is a gift, each exhale a surrender, and in between those two, that's where stillness lives. You want to change everything about how you feel in aging? Start here. Breathe consciously, slowly, lovingly, with curiosity. That breath doesn't judge your wrinkles. It doesn't care how many times you've failed. It doesn't ask you to hurry. It just welcomes you home. You are not behind. You are in season. Let's revisit the feeling we started with. Being left behind. Maybe it's the fear that your relevance is fading, that the world's moving on, that younger people now hold the keys, that you missed your moment. But that feeling, it's a lie dressed as logic. You are not behind. You are in season. Think about it. The cherry blossom blooms for only a few weeks, but when it does, the world stops and stares. No one asks why it didn't bloom in January, so why do we shame ourselves for not blooming when we were 30, or not being as fast at 70? Your season is now. You carry within you not just your story, but generations of stories, regrets and insights, questions and stillness. That's not being behind. That's being deep, and the world desperately needs depth right now. You are not forgotten. You are forming. You are not late. You are arriving differently, softly, with purpose. What comes next? In the next part, we'll explore the fourth truth, that letting go doesn't mean losing. It means finally being free. And trust me, this is the one that changes not just your mind, but your entire relationship with time. We'll walk gently through the sacred art of surrender, what it really means, how it heals, and why the final third of life might just be the most peaceful. But for now, just breathe. You're not behind. You're exactly where life meant you to be. Let that truth settle in. Truth 4. The present moment is all you ever truly own. Let's pause for a second. Not to think about yesterday, not to worry about tomorrow, just pause. And notice that you're here, breathing, sitting, reading. That's the present moment. And that's all you really have. Now, this isn't some fluffy idea from a motivational poster or a self-help cliche stuck to your fridge. This is the raw, unfiltered truth, rooted deeply in Buddhist wisdom and tested by thousands of years of lived human experience. Growing old often means growing distracted. As we get older, we often slip into one of two mental traps. 1. We get stuck in the past. Regrets, what-ifs, lost chances, old pains. 2. We obsess over the future, our health, our legacy, our loneliness, or the fear of being forgotten. But life doesn't happen in either of those places. Life is happening right now. While you're thinking about how things used to be or how you wish they'd turn out, life is quietly unfolding, moment by moment, without waiting for you to catch up. And you know what? That hurts, because the more we try to control or relive something that's not here, the more disconnected we feel from the moment that is here. Buddhist insight, impermanence grounds you in now. In Buddhism, the concept of Anicca, or impermanence, is one of the three marks of existence. It teaches that nothing stays the same. No feeling, no moment, no pain, no joy, no identity, no age. But instead of this being a scary truth, it's a liberating one. Why? Because when you understand that everything is passing, including your worries and your wrinkles, you begin to realize how precious each moment actually is. You stop rushing. You stop complaining about the little things. You stop clinging to youth as though it was your only value. And you start living again, not surviving out of habit. A cup of tea and a universe Thich Nhat Hanh, the beloved Vietnamese Zen master, once said, "Drink your tea slowly and reverently, as if it is the axis on which the world Earth revolves. Slowly, evenly, without rushing toward the future." That's what the present moment gives you, a chance to feel the fullness of now. Even if you're just sipping a cup of tea, even if you're watching the rain fall from your bedroom window, even if your back aches and your knees remind you of your age, there's a kind of peace, deep, uncluttered, and simple, that only lives in the present. But most of us are so busy trying to fix what already passed, or predict what hasn't yet come, we miss the life that's quietly blooming in front of us. Let's get real. What keeps us from the present? Here's the thing, being present is not always easy, especially when your body is changing in ways you can't control. People around you are moving faster, talking louder, living differently. The digital world is pulling you toward constant distraction. You feel invisible in the chaos of youth-driven culture. But here's where Buddhist wisdom is so practical and life-changing. It doesn't ask you to escape your reality. It asks you to fully enter it, to breathe through it, to witness it, to soften into it, because the present moment doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real, and you just need to show up for it. A thought experiment. What if this moment was enough? Try this. Close your eyes. Take a slow breath in, then out. Now ask yourself gently, if this was the only moment I had, would it be enough? Not in a fearful way, not as a final judgment, but as a gentle nudge back to life, back to what's real. You might notice your heart beating, a breeze through the window, a bird outside, the sound of your own breath. That's life, and it's enough. You are enough, right here, right now, not because you've done something worthy, not because you're proving anything, but simply because you're alive. That's sacred. That's enough. Aging is the masterclass in presence. Let's reframe aging for a second. Maybe aging isn't a downfall. Maybe it's not a decline. Maybe it's the ultimate training ground for presence. Think about it. When youth fades, we're less distracted by appearances. When goals dissolve, we're less obsessed with proving ourselves. When losses happen, we begin to truly understand what matters. The ego softens, the noise thins, the truth becomes clearer. And in that silence, presence rises. That's the hidden blessing in growing old. It gives you a front row seat to the miracle of now. Let go of the illusion of later. One of the greatest lies we tell ourselves is, I'll be happy later. Later when the pain goes away. Later when I'm more secure. Later when the kids call. Later when I'm needed again. But later is a ghost. It never arrives as expected. So why keep betting on a fantasy when this moment is already here, asking for nothing but your attention? How to start living more fully right now. No long lectures, no complicated rituals, just simple, mindful shifts. 1. Anchor to the breath. Your breath is your doorway to the now. Anytime you feel scattered, come back to it. Slow, deep, natural. That's presence. 2. Name what you see and feel. In this very moment, say to yourself, I see sunlight on the floor. I feel a heaviness in my shoulders. I hear the hum of the fan. This grounds you. Drop the narrative. When your mind starts spiraling into, why did this happen to me? Or, what if things don't get better? Pause. Feel the ground under your feet. Return to now. 4. Savor small moments. A cup of tea, a soft pillow, a quiet morning. Don't brush past them. Savor them like they're the whole point, because they are. 5. Silence the inner critic. When that voice tells you you're too old, too late, or too forgotten, breathe. Then whisper gently to yourself, this moment is still mine. The present moment isn't just a concept, it's a home. And here's the deeper truth. You don't need to run from aging. You don't need to pretend you're someone you were 20 years ago. You don't need to hide from your wrinkles, your aches, or your quieter pace. You just need to come home to this breath, this beat, this second, because right here, you're alive. And in Buddhist wisdom, that's the whole miracle. So the next time you catch yourself saying, I'm too old to start over, or there's nothing left for me, stop, stand still, close your eyes, and let the moment whisper back to you, you're not behind. You're here. And that's everything. Truth 5. You are not who you were. And that's okay. Let's sit with something for a moment. Not just think about it, but sit with it. Like a friend who's come to visit after years apart. A little older, a little quieter, but still familiar. You are not who you were. Not 20 years ago, not 10, not even yesterday. And that's okay. In fact, that's everything. This truth can feel jarring at first, especially as we age. There's a quiet ache when you realize that the person in the mirror isn't the person you once were. There's gray where there used to be color. There are lines where there used to be softness. And maybe more than that, there's distance between who you were and who you are now. But here's the Buddhist truth. Clinging to a fixed identity is suffering. Letting go is liberation. The myth of a permanent self. In Buddhist philosophy, there's a core teaching called anatta, or non-self. It's the idea that the self, as we typically understand it, this solid, unchanging me, doesn't actually exist in the way we think it does. You are not a fixed identity. You are a process, a flow, a movement. Thoughts come and go. Emotions rise and fade. The body changes. Cells die and regenerate. Even your personality, what you value, how you see the world, shifts with time, experience, and age. So why do we feel lost when we change? Because we were never taught that change is not only okay, it's natural. Sacred, even. But let me ask you something. Would you want to be stuck in the mindset of your 20s forever? Would you want to carry the insecurities of your younger self into your 60s and 70s? Probably not. Yet the illusion of a fixed identity makes us mourn the person we once were, rather than embrace the wisdom of who we've become. Memory is not identity. Here's a subtle trap. We often confuse memory with identity. We say, I used to be strong. I used to be beautiful. I used to be successful. But those statements are stories, snapshots, not the full picture. The mind likes continuity. It likes a narrative. So it builds a timeline and says, this is me. But that timeline is fragile and memory is selective. We forget our own growth because we are too busy grieving a version of ourselves that was never meant to stay. Buddhism invites you to loosen that grip, to stop mourning the past like it was your prime, and start honoring the present like it's your arrival, because it is. Who are you now? Here's a better question than, who was I? Who am I now when I stop comparing myself to who I used to be? That's a question worth sitting with. Because when you stop measuring yourself against your past, something interesting happens. You begin to notice peace instead of pressure. You begin to value quiet over noise. You begin to feel things more deeply. A sunset, a soft voice, a moment of kindness. That's not decline, that's evolution. You've traded speed for stillness, competition for compassion, noise for meaning. What a gift! Rewriting the meaning of aging in the West. Aging is often seen as a decline, a slow unraveling. But in Buddhist thought, it's the opposite. Aging is the peeling away of illusions, the softening of ego, the arrival of wisdom. Yes, the body may tire, but the spirit, if tended to, deepens. Imagine an old tree, its bark weathered, its limbs bent, yet it stands, rooted. It provides shelter. It knows things the young trees cannot yet imagine. You are that tree. Let the world chase youth. Let it fear wrinkles and worship speed. You are becoming ancient in the most beautiful way. Letting go of used to be. The phrase, I used to be, can be poison if you're not careful. It's often tinged with regret, loss, even shame. But what if you rephrased it? What if I used to be became I've grown from? I used to be unsure of myself. I've grown into someone who trusts their gut. I used to be full of ambition. I've grown into someone who values peace. I used to be angry. I've grown into someone who can sit with their emotions. See the shift? It's not about denying who you were. It's about not being trapped by it. Growth isn't betrayal, it's maturity. And letting go of your past self isn't abandonment. It's honoring the path that brought you here. What if you're just beginning? Let me offer one more thought, one that might sound strange. What if you're not fading, but just beginning? What if this chapter, this slower, wiser, gentler chapter, is the one that was always waiting to be written? Because here's the thing, your value is not in what you do. It's in who you are, and who you are now, in your 60s, your 70s, or beyond, might be the most real version of you there's ever been. You're no longer chasing, or pretending, or proving. You're just being. That's not decline. That's the ultimate freedom. A final reflection. So let's circle back. You are not who you were. Your body has changed. Your pace has slowed. Your relationships have shifted. But your essence, your awareness, that's always been there. Quietly watching, gently evolving. The Buddhist path doesn't ask you to cling to who you were. It invites you to awaken to who you are. And that version of you, the one reading this now, is more than enough. Let the old stories fall away. Let the past selves dissolve. And meet yourself here, in this moment, fully present, fully you, because who you are now is exactly who you were meant to become. And that, my friend, is not just okay, it's everything. A soft goodbye with a gentle invitation. You've made it here, through the reflections, the truths, and the uncomfortable, tender feelings that sometimes arise when we talk about aging. Maybe you cried a little, maybe you laughed, maybe you sat there quietly nodding, recognizing yourself in the spaces between these words. That's the beauty of this kind of journey. It's not just about learning something new, it's about remembering what you already knew deep down. You are not behind, you are not lost, and you are certainly not done. Aging is not a mistake to fix or a burden to hide. It is a deepening, a blooming of a different color. You've spent decades climbing, building, trying, failing, loving, losing, and all of it brought you here. So breathe. Let go of the idea that your best years are behind you. Who told you that anyway? In Buddhism, there is a saying, the flower doesn't compete with the flower next to it. It just blooms. You are that flower, blooming in your own time, in your own rhythm. And even now, especially now, you're allowed to bloom again. Before you go, if this message touched something in you, even just a small corner of your heart, if it made you think, feel, or simply sit a little straighter, then maybe it's a sign to keep going deeper, a sign to take this journey seriously, not with fear but with gentleness and grace. So here's a soft invitation. Like this video if it brought you peace, clarity, or calm. Subscribe to the channel if you want more Buddhist stories, truths, and gentle reminders for the soul. turn on notifications because you never know when the next story will speak exactly to where you are. This isn't just a channel, it's a quiet space in a noisy world, a refuge, a reminder, a return. Thank you for walking with me. Until next time, be well, be kind, and bloom exactly where you are. Flower.